I just tell the truth, and telling the truth is crazy in a world full of lies.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about the book of Esther because it's a book that people love preaching on. Women in authority, women taking positions of authority, women empowerment. People love preaching on the book of Esther as a ruling queen, right? But I wanted to break it down for what the word actually says regarding the book of Esther. So we're going to break down the book of Esther, and we're going to start with chapter 1. From the very beginning, what's going on? Now, chapter 1 is very simple. You have Xerxes who comes into power. He has been reigning. He has inherited the Persian Empire from his father Darius. So he is enjoying the wealth that he has acquired over his kingdom. And he decides to throw this banquet where he can have everybody, the rich, the poor, the middle class, everybody come into my kingdom, come into my palace. Let's eat and have a few drinks. It says it lasted 180 days. He was displaying everything that he has had for 180 days, and then he throws this big banquet that lasted for like 7 days. So Xerxes is out here living it up, doing his thing. And now this is what happens. He, in the midst of all of this, realizes his wife, Vashti, is not there. So he calls his people, and then he says to the officials, like, yo, bring Vashti over, because Vashti was having her own banquet separate from that of her husband in the actual royal palace. So that's a crazy thing on itself, because what it's saying is the king is having his banquet at the palace grounds in the garden, whereas his wife, who's supposed to be by his side, decided to do her own banquet. So I will say this is the one key I will tell you to this. When you don't have the desires to partake in the very things that your husband has done, created, being able to bring about and actually enjoy the things that he has because you want to do your own thing, that act of disobedience is a very big factor that you may be a Vashti and not an Esther. That you want to do your own thing more than to submit to the thing that your husband has declared for you to do is crazy. That's a very Vashti sign. So I want to keep pointing that out because it's amazing how this prevalent theme of authority and women in authority misses this point that Vashti, in her independence, in her lavish style of living, always wanted to do her own thing, to the point that even the celebrations, she was like, nah, you know what, give me my money and I'm going to throw my own banquet with my own people. I don't care about what you're doing. Crazy separation for a couple, a married couple that's supposed to be ruling as one. Nonetheless, the king, Xerxes, he's like, yo, you know what? Bring my wife over. So he sends out a few of his people and he says, yo, bring my wife over and have her wear her royal crown, right? Because she's lovely to look at. He's saying, man, my wife is beautiful. I want to show her off to everybody here. The king's officials, the royal, the countrymen, everyone. I want everybody to see how beautiful my wife is. So you got to see the picture. We having this huge banquet. The whole country is there. You have the news media. Hey, everybody knows. And then you say, like, you guys want to see something amazing? You guys want to see something really beautiful? You guys want to see something that's beyond all of this? Let me show you guys my wife. So he is exhorting Vashti and saying, like, my wife is lovely to look at. This banquet, nothing without my wife. And then he sends out people to go get Vashti. And then it says that she refused to come. That's crazy because everybody, like Xerxes, gassed up everybody, letting them know, hey, listen, my wife, woof, fire. And then when it's time for her to show, makes him look like a fool in front of everybody. It's wild. Because this one single act of disobedience, and I say disobedience because the command of the king is supposed to be obeyed. The command of your husband is supposed to be obeyed. So when this happens, Xerxes is just livid. It says he was furious and burned with anger. He was tight. So he gets his people together, his consort and so forth, and he's like, what should we do? Right? Because any other time, any other culture, they will be like, behead, kill, get rid of that woman. Right? But when you study the history of the Persian Empire, especially Vashti's lineage, she was connected. If anything, when you go back into her lineage, she was actually cousin 3 times removed of Xerxes. So she still does come from royalty. He cannot just get rid of her. So they're like, what should we do? Because I can kill this woman. And then they said, you know what you should do? You should not see her again. Right? Because the thing is, if you indulge in her behavior, and this is the main point of the whole book of Esther, it says in verse 16, it says, what she has done is not only wrong to you, but it's also against the nobles and all the people in the provinces that you have. What she did will serve as an example for all women in the kingdom. And then if any man in their household says something, they say, hey, do this, do that, the woman will be like, well, Queen Vashti didn't have to listen to her husband. Why should I listen to you? And it's like their concern is the actions of that woman will be an example for the entire kingdom. And that will create chaos. That will create disrespect. That will create discord. That's verse 18. That's what they're concerned about. They're saying the actions of disobedience, disrespect of your wife not listening to you in front of everybody will serve as an example for every other household to follow suit. And it will just create chaos because you are breaking the very foundation of a marriage, which is the husband, the wife, the kids. And they're saying, we can't allow that. We cannot allow that, King. It's like, but you know what? Because she disrespected you, take her away from your presence and make it that she never enters your presence again. And more than that, it says, and remove her position and give it to someone else. Crazy. He's saying, listen, we may be married, but your position by my side is gone. And then, on top of everything, once that damage was done, in order to correct what he did, not only was Vashti removed from her position, but now also the king sends out a verdict, a command, a decree to every household in the country, proclaiming that every man should be ruler over his own household, using his native tongue. That's the end of chapter 1. It's a story where you see King Xerxes literally elevating this woman, saying she's the best, and this woman disrespecting him to the uttermost. And then considering her position of authority as an example, as a queen, they're like, yo, you are doing so wrong. You are serving as an example for every household in this kingdom, and you have just wronged me. What's to stop every other woman to follow in suit? And this is why it's important, so damn important, to understand what true submission is. Because you might think that's a big deal, like that's too much of a punishment. Like, really, I don't listen to you and come to you, and then now all of a sudden I can't even see you ever, like, for one thing that I did. And we might think that's a big, like, maybe over the top punishment. Like, you remove my position, I can never see you again, I can never talk to you again. You can take that position, right? And you can say that's too far. Adam and Eve were kicked out of the garden for eating a fruit. You gotta think about that. One decision of disobedience caused Adam and Eve to be kicked away, kicked out of the presence of God. Because that act of disobedience shows one thing: you are not with me. You do not want to go my way. You do not follow my way. And this is the thing: God has placed an order, and marriage is a manifestation of that order, that God says, this is my way, and you get to join into his purpose. And then amazingly enough, he made marriage the same picture. He's like, listen, the man, he's the head of the house as I am the head of the church. And if you don't go his way, you will be going out of his presence. And this is why in modern days, you have people, right? You have marriages where a husband who is not respected, who a king, right? And I say king because he is the one that provides the household, his very kingdom in which the woman lives in. When you do not respect that authority, you see men now turn off, right? They turn off their presence, and now they become very, very idle. They don't talk as much because their presence is not there, because their mind knows not to be there, because you have disrespected him to a point that his very presence is gone. Like, and this is what I'm talking about. This is Bible 101 about simply hierarchy of marriage and the importance behind submitting to your husband and respecting your husband and loving your husband, and how the kingdom can thrive under that submission. You serve as an example. This is crazy. Like, your example is what your kids, the people in your kingdom, will see. And if you do not show respect for your husband, your kids will not show respect for any authority going forward. They will not show respect for their friends, for the police, for any authoritative figure, because you have raised them up to disrespect the very one that provides for them. That's the book of Esther. That's chapter 1 of the book of Esther. The importance of following that who is the head of the house. Obeying your husband, obeying your king, who provides the kingdom, who gave you the very things that you have to keep you going forward. It's to stand by his side in the success of his wealth according to what he has provided. That's the book of Esther. That's where it all begins. People do not talk about this. People talk about the empowerment that Esther came into it, but they don't understand, or maybe they don't want to understand, because it's really hard to swallow the pill of submission. That submission is a freedom. That Esther only came into power because someone did not operate correctly within that position that was given to her. So you have to really consider your relationship right now. First, with your spouse. I think that's important, because that's the first person you're going to interact with today. Are you, Vashti, doing your own thing, wanting your own things, not following the vision of your husband, maybe disrespecting your husband? Are you that? Right? Because you have to remember that how you treat your husband is a manifestation of how you treat God. That's a crazy statement, but if how you treat your husband is a manifestation of how you treat God, then you will know exactly if you're a Vashti or are you an Esther. Because Vashti was at all times exhorted and just put on this high pedestal. She's amazing. It wasn't that she wasn't. It was that she did not submit to the one that put her there. Right? The man is the foundation of the house. You got to understand that he's the one that holds the house together. If the man is gone, if the man and his presence is gone, the whole house falls apart. So are you respecting the one that has given you the shelter and the provision for you to be and enjoy what you have? Because if you're not, again, it's a manifestation of your relationship with God. God does not overlook that. He's looking how you treat your husband. And understand something now. This is a picture of the church. Right? Are we treating God with the same respect that Vashti was treating him? If he is the King of Kings, do we treat him like a king? Do we gift him as a king? Do we obey him as a king? Or do we say, I'm not going to do that, Lord. I'm not going to do that, God. I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that. No, God, I want to do my own thing. I get it. You tell me to go here and do these things, but I want to do my own thing instead. Church, are you a Vashti? Are you really just trying to disrespect the king? Because there will be a point where anyone that does not fall in accordance to the way of God will be removed, and the ones that have been there will be added more, right? So Jesus talked about this, right? The parable of the talents, that even those who have and did not do right by it, the little they have will be taken from them. So you got to take a moment and really wonder, am I a Vashti? Or am I an Esther? So that's the book of Esther, chapter 1. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's an amazing, amazing book when you look into the context of what it's actually saying. It's not about women in authority. It's about submission, submission to God, submission to your king, about following the footsteps of your king, being close to him, binding yourself in purpose, in covenant. That's the book of Esther, the beautiful act of submission, the grand scheme of marriage, of covenant, of the great repercussions for disobedience. That's what the book of Esther is about. So please, whenever you hear this book, whenever you hear someone preaching on it, keep that in mind, right? Because people love taking the word of God and almost, instead of reading the word of God, they read it to themselves, right? They don't read it for them. They read it to them, to themselves. I say, like, there's some people that read the word and they read the word for what it says. And then some people that read the word and they read the word for what they want it to say. That's how you know who's a false teacher or unseasoned, right? Childlike teacher that should not be a teacher. These people are everywhere. And I'm telling you, and I will continue to tell you, you have to be careful, because there is a time that's coming where every false prophet will sound like a great preacher and make you feel all types of good and empowered, only to let you know, only to take you to the place where Vashti was, away from the presence of the king. So stand guard, be sober-minded, keep a good ear to listen to what is actually being preached, so that you don't find yourself being led astray by the false teachings of very, very bad teachers. But again, don't take my word for it. Go and read the story. Go read chapter 1. It's only like 19, 20 verses, but it's an amazing story of what God is going to do with his church, how God expects your obedience at his command, just the nature of the actual church. God bless you, people. Take care. Thank you for listening.